we are going into the Chicago Public Library's archives, locating information that will expose the tunnel systems located right under the city of Chicago. You know, here on this channel, that we are definitely not being told the full story regarding the tunnel systems all over the world, where they start off by telling us that the very first major tunnel project was dug under Lake Michigan to a water intake 2 miles out in 1864 to 1866. This is 29 years before the invention of the power tool. Digging massive tunnel systems under the lake, where it goes on to say that Chicago kept on digging away, creating thousands of miles of underground structures, where in my opinion, this is the beginning of the narrative for these tunnels that were created by the previous civilization. Thousands of miles of underground structures right underneath the city of Chicago, all according to public records in the Chicago Public Library. So let's go deeper. I was able to locate someone that has recently been inside the tunnel systems, and they shared what they saw with me. And now I'm going to share it all with you. We have seen these photos. They are on the internet, and here it is today. We can see that the railway is still there on the floor, looking exactly like we see in these photos that we are told is from pre-1906. Over 120 years ago, I was sent other photos that I think you will all want to see. These tracks lead throughout the entire tunnel system, using them as transportation throughout the entire city. We have shown in episode 42 how these tunnel systems are in every single city in the world, how they connect all of the buildings together underground. These buildings are bigger than we can see. There is so much more under our feet than we realized before, where we can see that this tunnel system leads right to the Chicago City Hall, a building that we were told was constructed in 1911. Of course, holding the fire story, where this is a nod, meaning one of three things, or a combination of them. In my opinion, of course, 1, it's letting them all know which building is from the old world. 2, where the catacombs are located. And or 3, where the tunnel systems are located. I believe it is a nod to these three things at this point. And we need to remember this for the future and keep track of what we continue to see throughout our research. They also tell us that there was a previous city hall. Now, it's very interesting that they tell us that these tunnels were constructed by the Chicago Tunnel Company. Great name. And their history begins by letting us know that there were initial tunnels. Initial tunnels. Are these not the tunnels that were found? You tell me. Especially when they go on to say that the city of Chicago had no idea what to do with these tunnels, granting the newly formed Illinois Telephone and Telegraph Company the rights to construct utility tunnels under the streets of Chicago in 1899. So 1899, they start making tunnels for phone lines. I thought we were told by the Chicago Public Library in their archives that they were digging thousands of miles of tunnels decades before this. That's right. We were told this. And the first telephone in Chicago didn't come until 1877. So what was Chicago doing digging tunnels for thousands of miles before the telephone? Because we know this wasn't the true purpose of these tunnels, and they are trying to push it off that they needed the tunnels for telephone cables in 1899, where we can see very clearly that the dates are beginning to collide, the very beginning of a massive narrative slip-up. So let's keep going. They continue on by saying that the initial plans for the tunnels called for filling them with phone cables, when we just showed that that is not true at all. This was not the initial plans for the tunnels. Not even close. We have found something massive, in my opinion. A massive lie. And here's where they're going to try and explain why they have railways in all of these tunnels. When the city, of course, said no, you cannot use the manholes to get the cables into the tunnels. Of course they did. They say, yes, we need you to dig tunnels for our phones. But no, you can't use the manholes to actually get the cables down there. I'm going to ask you, how ridiculous does that sound? Refusing to permit manholes through which cables could be unreeled into the tunnels. The plans were then changed, of course. Changed to include rails for hauling cable spools through the tunnels. Incredible. Where the city was largely unaware of the nature of tunneling. They didn't even know how big these tunnels were or where they went, saying they were unaware. Unbelievable. The clearest proof that we have ever been told on the tunnels, in my opinion. A huge sentence right there for our research. Can you see that these tunnels were constructed by the previous civilization now? Are you able to see the truth that a previous civilization was here, much closer to our timeline than what we have been told? And all of their work has been left behind for us to see, for us to uncover, where the first 16 miles of tunnels had to be excavated to remove earth carefully and systematically from an area in order to find buried remains. Now, we remember that the public library told us that there are thousands of miles of underground structures. Is this limited to just tunnels? Or is this another proof that there are